So we are here to speak about, or to answer the question that I received on my stories, which was about what it's like to be a black physiotherapist. So naturally, it felt better to have the discussion as opposed to just answer it all from my own perspective. And who better than my Guyanese brother, Sanchez. So now you can introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so my name's Sanchez Davis. Like yourself, I'm a qualified physiotherapist. I currently teach at St. George's University as well. Don't do that.
Hey, the wins have to be celebrated.
No, of course, of course. And I currently also work part-time in a MSK clinic as well as Crystal Palace Football Club Academy.
Nice.
So yeah.
Crystal Palace, my old stomping ground when I first learned weightlifting.
Ah.
Not for long.
Are you South London girl?
I was, yeah.
Ah.
Now I'm
you're a traitor.
Are
you a traitor?
I was South London. Southwest, let's be clear.
Okay, whereabouts?
Not deep south. Battersea.
Oh, okay. That's okay, not deep, but it's still.
It took me a long time to get to Crystal Palace.
I know the SE is a whole nother.
Yeah,
a whole nother area.
So lots of experience. Also, I find it like pretty awesome that you're a physio. I don't know if a lot of other people realize this. I don't know if it's the same for you, but I assume like Caribbean parents.
Oh yeah, I'm the first of my immediate family to have gone to university.
Same.
Yeah.
Exact same.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the expectation was high.
Yeah.
Like when I say Caribbean parents are like Asian parents.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing.
Yeah, because there's this, I guess, stereotype. I don't know where it comes from, but they say traditionally, if you compare the communities, Caribbean community, the African community, the African community tends to excel and go on to further study, higher education, and so on.
Yeah.
Whereas the Caribbean community or West Indian community, not as much. But I can remember, as I said, although my parents, my mom has gone on to go to university after I did, but growing up, it was like, keep your head in the books. You must go to school. Once you finish school, get to college, do college, then do uni.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much what I grew up to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then a lot of my peers, whether they were also Caribbean or African and Asian, same things. We all went on to uni. Like all of my friends, apart from one, has gone to uni.
Yeah, exactly. They were exactly the same. And I find it really interesting because my dad was like literally master of all trades. Right?
Okay, yeah.
But didn't have, did he have a degree? I don't think he had an actual degree.
Yeah.
He had a lot of like
qualifications,
skills. Qualifications.
Yeah.
Not all the qualifications, because sometimes he was like, read a book and do that. Like, why do I need to study that?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it was, some parts good, some parts questionable. Maybe you should go and get that certificate, but
Yeah, but things were a little bit different back in the days, though.
I know.
Like you could get away with, oh yeah, I'm an electrician, and then you just your friend taught you how to wire something. Or oh yeah, I'm a plumber. It was because your friend taught you how to. Whereas now in our generation, you have to have certifications and so on. Whereas back in the days, not so much.
Which is funny because I feel like I took that trait from my dad because my friends are saying to me, you have so many qualifications. Like, they're like, you can teach this and you can run that. And I'm like, yeah, because I kind of learned from my dad that you want to be able to have like a lot of skills. A lot of areas.
Yes.
You never want to be caught out.
Yeah, exactly.
But also he never had all the certificates. So I'm like, let me make sure the paperwork's up to date.
I hear you for sure. Yeah, no, of course. I think for me, it was a little bit, although I was told education, how I got into physio, I guess wasn't the conventional route. Part of that through fault of my own. I wasn't the best behaved in school and college. But once
That's your Jamaican side. I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like I need to reference that joke. But obviously there's the constant thing, isn't there, between like Guyanese and I feel like the rest of the Caribbean.
Yeah. But I always, because I come from both,
of course.
I always say, but look where the headquarters are. Look where the headquarters are.
Let me just put that one in there. Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, so because I wasn't the best behaved. I wasn't unruly or bad breed, but I guess, well, part of it I think was because I wasn't diagnosed until much later in life, neurodivergent with
Yeah,
ADHD,
okay.
dyslexia, and dyspraxia. So I think part of my behavioral difficulties or challenges in school is because I wasn't being stimulated.
Yeah, of
But
course.
anyway, so yeah, I think so. Once I was in college and I chose BTEX, and there's nothing wrong with BTEX, people. You can
I don't
still
know,
go on to
that
prosper.
nearly cost me going to uni.
Really?
Yeah. They told me at college, they said you can do, I was doing my A levels, all
Yeah.
set, all
Yeah.
good. And they said, oh, you can do this BTEC National Diploma, Sport and Exercise Science. You love sports, we want to have you on the teams,
Yep. Yep.
obviously, we
Yep.
want you know, regularly training. And I came out with my distinctions. That's what they said. And they said, yes, fine, you can go to uni with that. I applied to the university, and the university said, no, ma'am, you need to go back and get your science. So I had to go back to night school,
Ah, I
and I had
see.
to study human biology,
Neurology, yeah, and
and I
then
had to get an A so that I could get into uni.
to uni. Okay, so well, I didn't go straight into physio
Right.
because I did the BTEC and because of just being a, as you could say, my Jamaican side. So
Don't hold me to
no,
that.
it's
It
all
was
good.
just a joke,
I know,
by
I
the
know, I know.
way.
It's so good. It's so good.
I have a lot of Jamaican friends. I don't understand it.
Look, and then so what had happened? So when I was in my second year, I had to redo a lot of my first year work because the first year I was just lazy, lackadaisical, just wasn't really
Yeah.
switched on. So in second year, redid my first year work and did my second year stuff, and I finished, got my distinctions. So I was like, okay, what options do I have? Because I want to go to university. It was like, okay, you can't become a physio just yet because you'd only done, as you said, the sports
Sure.
science.
Yeah.
So that's why I went to university and did my sport and exercise science degree first.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
but
Nice.
what when I was in college, it was like I was thinking coaching or teaching.
Mm.
Through my background in sport, and I thought about going down either the football coaching route or the athletics coaching route.
Yeah.
And then when my auntie was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she started to have palliative care, and she was having physio in her home, that shed a whole new light to the profession for me because
Yeah.
my own experience prior to that was
Very different.
just sport.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, there's more to the profession than purely just sport.
Yeah.
Yes, I work in sport, but I still find the profession very
Same.
rewarding.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Same.
So that then kind of was like, okay, I can't do that now, but how can I get into it?
Yeah.
Sport and exercise science degree, and then I did the physio degree after. So that was that was the start of where I am today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done for staying on top of that as well, because a lot of people sometimes give up. I think.
Yeah. I was close. I nearly did. Yeah, I nearly did.
Yeah.
There
I
was
mean,
a.
I feel like
You've been
there
there.
too.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
it's good. And what you say, I think, is so relevant about seeing the other side of physio.
Yeah.
I think for me, actually, my parents owned nursing homes.
Okay.
That's when we talk about my dad being jack of all trades. He literally built an extension on a bed and breakfast,
Yeah.
turned it into a nursing home, and then built up another nursing
Nursing
home.
home. Yeah.
And so then I was very familiar with the whole like healthcare and caring for people, and so that was where I was sort of okay. Maybe I want to be a doctor. Actually,
Yeah.
maybe I want to do all of this. And then there was the sports side, which that actually was what had so slightly reversed, but that's what had the big impact on me because I was like, okay, I love sports. Strangely, I'd done some football and rugby coaching like
Okay.
awards. So I
Yes.
was like, maybe I want to do that.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at volleyball. So that was my main sport at the time. And then I thought, okay, actually, with what my friends had said, no, we can do this. Maybe let's look at the physio route. Do I sometimes regret it? No, I don't ever regret it, but I do have this like feeling in the back of my head that should I do it again?
Where would you go back to university and study? Do 4 years?
The only thing that I would still love to tick off is to be able to do surgery. I know that sounds crazy. It's just
Doesn't sound crazy. That I've said if I had the patience and the academic resilience and knowledge to do it, I definitely would have become a surgeon. and I
Yeah.
think it would have been trauma and orthopedics as well.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, because I
Same.
love surgery. I've seen surgery before, and but then obviously
Exactly.
being involved in the rehabilitation component,
Yeah.
the rehabilitation component.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
I absolutely just adore that topic.
yeah.
So and I'm not blood, bones, all of bodily fluids doesn't phase me at all.
It doesn't phase me in that aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not great when people are sick or they're, using their bowels from all over the place, but that's a different story.
Takes it back to placement. That takes me back to placement.
Yeah, right. Yeah, when you get all the bad jobs on placement.
Yes.
Thanks so much for that. But yeah, so I think that sort of stays in the back of my mind, and I've actually seen there are routes that you can take to do minor surgeries.
Okay.
As a physio, like if you become a specialist,
Yeah.
there are things like I think it's like
Well, arthroscopies.
like arthroscopies and stuff like that. So potential, but yeah, I think the thing for me was quality of life or title.
Yeah.
That's what it came down to. But just going back to uni, I don't know, where did you study?
St. George's.
Oh, you studied here in London?
Yes.
Okay.
Where did you study?
So, well, because I grew up in Cornwall.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born in
Did you go to Plymouth?
Strangely Kings. Sorry?
Did you study in Plymouth?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was born in Kings.
Yeah.
My parents moved me to Cornwall when I was like a year old.
Okay.
I grew up there. It was very different.
I'm sure.
Hence why I'm here now.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Beautiful place. And the university, to be fair, was great. So they had like the Peninsula Allied Health Professions and where all the medical students were. And then I think we had sports therapy and then we had physiotherapy all on a different side.
Okay.
So that was quite nice. But one of the things that, just going back to the topic at hand and being a black physio, one of the things that a couple of the students said to me actually, when we were talking about how competitive it was to get into physio. So you know how competitive it is now. It was getting pretty competitive already then.
Yeah.
And there was 40 spaces
in
this course.
Yeah.
Small university. Yeah. And I got one of them. And they were like, oh, that. And yeah, the students were like, oh, but you know you're here to meet the equality and diversity criteria. And that was my first experience of, racism, let's be honest.
Yeah.
That is to do with like grades
interview. Nothing to do with that. No objective markers at all. Just yeah. Wow.
So yeah, crazy.
I'm thinking back to because it was a university in London.
Yeah.
I think my cohort itself wasn't diverse.
Because of the subject.
Yeah, I know, 100%. No, not probably, 100%, most certainly. I'm trying to remember the statistics in the profession currently. A couple of students of mine did a dissertation about representation within the profession and so on. And so the profession traditionally and stereotypically is middle class white woman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thank you for saying that because I get a lot of hate.
Oh no, it is. But it is that's what the statistics show.
Yeah.
And of that, so I think
that's the face of physio.
Yeah, that is a face of physio.
If you look around, even for like jobs for the NHS or jobs for private clinics.
Yeah.
That's the face.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Directors, owners, boards. Yeah. Even within, say, a university, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's not a criticism to those people in those positions. It's that's just the nature of the profession.
Yeah.
I think it is around 70 to 80% of the profession is white. And then of that is, I think again, it's about 70 to 80% are women.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. That makes sense as well.
Yes. Obviously, if you start to break it down into different sub-specialities within physiotherapy, like MSK and sport, the scales will sway.
Yeah.
But if you take the profession as a whole,
for sure,
it is predominantly middle-class white woman. And then, so my cohort, there was 8 of us, 8 out of 65 that weren't white. Yeah. So I'm not going to be able to do the maths right off the top of my head, but yeah, 8 out of 65 of us were not white. So it's just is that just over 10%? Yeah, just over 10%.
Yeah, that's
yeah. So
I think I'm trying to think back, but I'm pretty sure if there was another black person on the course, I would have remembered that. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
That you was the only one.
I was the only one.
Yeah.
There was we had like Filipino,
Yeah.
and Thai. I
Okay,
think.
we had Sri Lankan, a couple of other fellow Caribbeans. I think there was what, 3 or 4 more. We had one person from Ghana, and I think that is it. I don't remember in my cohort there being any Southeast Asians. There was definitely Southern Asians, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
and African and Caribbeans, but I don't remember there being any Southeast Asians. So like
Okay.
no Chinese, Thai,
Yeah.
Japanese, anybody from Hong Kong, no. Vietnamese, no. Now, yes. As what I was saying, in the cohorts that I teach now, they're and it's something that I've tried to almost do within the university is increase the representation, not just from home, say, students, but also international students as well. And so the numbers have changed since I've been there, but it's not drastically, but they've changed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, definitely. You could, and those are all positives. Although I will comment, and this is, I don't want to come across ever as singling like anyone out, but a black friend of mine the other day said that with a lot of Asians, specifically Southeast Asian, they also get a lot of white privilege.
yeah,
And I was like, do you know what? Hadn't really, I probably had observed it, but hadn't put like a finger to it as such. But I thought, you know what?
It makes
Talking
sense.
about like that, one of the clinics that I worked at used to do a lot of do photography promotion for the website, videos, etc. And I was never in them, but all of the white women were, and Southeast Asian women were.
Yeah, but it comes down to I think is it phenotypes. So you have Caucasoid and Negroid.
Yeah.
And Southeast Asian community come under Caucasoid because of the amount of melanin in their skin, as well as their texture of their hair.
Plus, also the fact that they try to keep it that way. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. So
probably could have more melanin, but it's preference.
Preference, yeah. Colorism. That's another conversation for another day.
That's a big conversation. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's probably why.
Yeah.
Yeah. What our cohort was like. Yeah.
Our cohorts.
Yeah. But I think obviously, and that was in London, where London is 68% non-white, but on my program, only 10% of us were not white. So it doesn't actually represent. My cohort didn't represent the statistics of London. Yeah. Whereas yours may have. In the way that they should have reflected. Whereas yours, yours totally did. You was in Plymouth, way down southwest, way down southwest. Yeah.
No. Okay. So fast forward. You've been to uni. Your cohort is not incredibly diverse. There is a few more. It's not diverse either.
Yeah.
So now, did you have any actually experiences during university?
Oh, most definitely. But that wasn't. It was when I was on placement. So yeah, my experiences were most definitely on placement, and I would say, of the 6 placements that I had, I would say 2 out of those 6 were good.
Okay.
I had a very pleasurable, enjoyable, informative, safe experience.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, 2 out of the 6. Bear in mind, again, my placements were in and around London.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Mine were wild. They were in the depths of Devon Cornwall. It was crazy. But I will say, to be fair to, in general, what I take away from my placements, or what I took away from my placements, is pretty positive.
Yeah.
And I think that's because the few outweighed the many. So to speak. I don't know about your course, but in our first year we did 1 placement off the bat.
Yeah. And
then in the second year we did 2, and in the third year we did 3.
So we did 3 in second year, 3 in the final year.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So the first year, we learn the foundations of, say, physiotherapy practice per se. Yeah. And then in the second year we then learn the three, like, I guess, main core topics: MSK, neuro, cardio resp,
Yeah.
and then we then go into placement.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So then you have how many? Bear with me. Yeah, you literally get 3 back to back, and then in the final year again. What am I talking about? Sorry. In the second year, so we did MSK neuro, then placement, then cardio resp, then placement, and then another placement. And then in our final year, literally you start on placement, come back for a few weeks, go on placement again, come back and then go on placement again. Yeah.
It's funny how they're sort of slightly different. I mean, ours was all like evidence-based practice and a lot of self-directed study, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which for me, and the way my brain works, it actually left me a bit overwhelmed because I'm somebody that needs to know the why.
Yeah.
You can't teach me something in isolation.
Yeah.
So if I don't understand the bigger picture, I
struggle to understand it. To consolidate and actually apply that. Yeah.
And that was the way the whole thing worked. It was very much, we're teaching you this now.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you don't need to worry about that till year 2, year 3.
Yeah.
And right now, just focus on this. And I'm not going to lie, it really messed with me studying through university because I was like, but self-directed study, and then I'd get lost in all the other things. And to be honest, probably there is some undiagnosed, I don't know, maybe ADHD or neurodivergence.
Never know. You never know. It's more common. It's more common than people realize. But also, Black women are one of the most undiagnosed and diagnosed the latest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because.
No offense taken. Go on, say it. Go on, say it.
No, because of how we've had to manage these things our whole lives.
Mask and compensate.
Exactly. And that's why do we mask? So we can assimilate and so we can just get on with our lives as easily as possible. That doesn't really seem to necessarily work.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I'm sure I just have not had it.
Had it come up. Well, and that's what. So I was diagnosed at 22. So that's still relatively late. And when I had the assessment, the psychologist was saying that you've almost adopted your own strategies and methods, which is why it's been slightly from what she said, it should have been picked up on, but because of my methods and strategies, it's kind of gone under the, like, I've just been doing enough to kind of to almost like to coast through. And so I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. But then it made sense as to why certain things and why I responded or why I was the way I was in school and stuff. But cool.
There was other situations where I was bullied a lot between primary and secondary school, a lot. And I remember somebody was trying to sort of hit me, beat me up. That obviously taught me self-defense. So I punched them. And I got in trouble because obviously I was the one that was seen to be doing
that. And of course you were the aggressor. I wonder why.
Exactly.
I wonder why.
And then this actually went full circle because by the time I was in secondary school, I got beaten up or hit so many times, and from fear of being in trouble, I didn't respond. Like my booster on my arm is massive because this white boy at school punched me for the whole 15 minutes of break, and I didn't want to get in trouble. He was tall as well. Irony, he had a black nose. If anyone sees this from my secondary school, I know exactly what I'm talking about. But he had a really wide, evidently black genetic type nose. And punched me for the whole 15 minutes. And I didn't want to respond. It bled, it got infected. I remember my dad put methylated spirits on it, which killed, and
Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
But back to the point. So placements, university, even my first degree, which was in Portsmouth, I didn't have any negative experience whilst being at university. It was when I went into placement.
Interesting.
But thankfully, the university itself, when I was experiencing the prejudice or discrimination, they were very supportive.
Okay, that's good.
They were actually very supportive.
That's good.
They actually had my back. there were two lecturers in particular who, middle class white women, but they had my back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I know for a fact, if they themselves didn't have my back, things wouldn't have changed for me on placement.
No.
Because on both occasions that they had to physically come to the placement and get involved and speak to my educators, literally within the following day, the way I was being treated was completely different.
Yeah, oh wow, that's really good.
Stark contrast.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know what entailed in the meetings, but something, I'm sure things were said, and then all of a sudden,
hopefully the right things.
Yeah. Well, my marks when we're going from 40s to 70s in the space of one day.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But lucky that
actually happened.
Because
Yeah.
actually that could have had a huge difference. The whole outcome.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which is it's scary actually to think about that.
Yeah.
I don't think I had, like I said, I had one male educator when I was doing outpatients. Probably the reason I'm in MSK now. He was amazing.
Yeah.
He's my friend on Facebook. I still think he's incredible. And I had another female physio that actually, she's also amazing. She worked in outpatients, so she wasn't my placement educator. I had a different placement educator, which it was interesting. It wasn't terrible. It was interesting.
Yeah.
And she became that sort of support system for me. Still, a white woman.
Yeah.
But made sure that I kind of had that support and that place to sort of breathe and just treated me like an adult. And she's great. She was on my Facebook.
Yeah.
She's used to send me jobs and stuff, and she'd be like, "You'd be amazing for this." So those two people specifically for my placements had
huge impact.
Huge positive impact. Yeah. I'm really grateful for them. I had one really bad experience, strangely, in women's health. And when just somebody doesn't like you, and just not sure why.
Why? Yeah.
And I will say that actually the university at the time did not do what they said they would do.
Okay.
And if anything, after I raised it with the university, I felt awkward for the fact that I had raised it.
Yeah.
I still came out with good grades, but she was somebody that told me, which I don't think is specific to being black, but I think some students had this problem where some educators were like, "You cannot get a first." Why? Her reason being, which I found quite funny, was because it was women's health, you couldn't do internal examinations as a student. So I actually called a teaching hospital in London, got them to send me a model vagina so I could do
the internal examination. Yeah.
And I thought, well, there we go, that's being proactive for you. I mean, I didn't come away with first because she stuck to what she said. Yeah. And that was the only placement I didn't come away with first. Interestingly.
Yep.
But it was grating whilst I was there. It was hard work.
Yeah.
It didn't matter how hard I tried. She just didn't really want to
give you
the time of day or the support. So it was a shame. It kind of put me off women's health a little bit. I'm over that now. But, at the time, that wasn't great. But we don't know why it was like that.
We don't.
Apparently, it was justified.
Okay.
As I said, I felt awkward
for raising it,
bringing that up.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
But I think that's something also that a lot of us do experience when we actually do experience. Sometimes it's flippant and blatant, overt prejudice, racism, discrimination.
Yeah.
And when we experience that, we're then left with the decision: what do I then do with this? Do I react? And within that reaction, whether you react verbally, physically, we're then at risk of then being looked at or perceived as the aggressor, which is the huge stereotype associated with the Black community, that we are aggressive in nature. So when we do experience it, we're like, okay, because at the end of the day, you're hurt. When you experience those things, there's a whole range of different emotions. It hurts, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're shocked, you're disappointed. There's so many different emotions. But then, so you're having to deal with all those emotions, then deal with that whether you should react or not, and then on top of that, you're like, okay, what do I then do? Like, do I report this to? What are my options? Yeah, do I report this to a senior, another colleague? And then when you then do that, what's actually going to happen?
Yeah.
Because sometimes what does happen is, because I feel like unless you yourself have experienced some form of prejudice, discrimination based on your race, you don't understand what that feels like.
No, you can't.
You can't. But then there's even this lack. There's this ignorance or naivety around it as well, which then almost then leads to it being dismissed, or excuses are then being made for the person that actually made those comments or those actions.
Yeah.
Like the default is, oh, I'm sure they didn't mean it. Oh, I'm sure if you just had a conversation with them, they'll turn around to you and say that's not with their intentions, and so on and so forth. Like
that conversation would have to be public.
Yeah.
Probably filmed to make sure you don't get accused.
Exactly. So there's that's something that I've experienced on numerous of occasions when I have actually reported. More so now as a qualified member of staff.
Yeah.
As a student, as I said, I had my tutors who stuck up for me, had my back, and things changed.